It's a game called photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, you are plants competing over sunlight. As the game goes along, you're going to get points. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game is your winner. Each turn is going to have two phases. The first is our sunlight phase. Let's throw a few trees on the board for the sake of this example. So we've got this sun, which is going to be rotating around the board. When we start off the game, it's going to go right here, which is where the sun symbol is. And each round, it's going to move to a new spot and have a new orientation. But it's going to start right here, and the sun is going to go this way, as you see these little arrows on the top of it. And each tree in its path is going to get sunlight, essentially units or points. Except certain trees are going to cast a shadow, and they're going to block other trees from getting that sunlight. So this tree right here would block this tree from getting sunlight. So what's going to happen is each tree is going to get a different number of points based on how big it is. And this game constantly is going to use 1, 2, 3. So the small trees that are in the line of that sunlight are going to get 1. The medium-sized trees are going to get 2. The big trees are going to get 3. So these are all trees from the yellow trees. So there's going to be 4 different sets of tree colors out there, 1 for each player. So this guy is going to get 1 plus 2 plus 3 is going to get 6 sunlight units. So we're going to move this marker from 0 all the way up to 6. If orange was here, it would get 2 sunlight units. But because it's here, this tree is going to cast a shadow. It's actually going to block it from getting any. So the idea is that if there's a tree between the sun and a tree that would otherwise receive sunlight, it casts a shadow of a different size based on how big it is. This one casts a shadow of 1 unit, this one casts a shadow of 2, and again, this one would cast a shadow of 3. If the shadow is coming from a tree that is the same size or bigger than your tree, you do not get any sunlight. So if this orange tree was here, there's a tree the same size that's 2 spaces away, it does not get any sunlight. If it was here, it is still in this tree's shadow, but because it's bigger than this tree, it still is going to get the sunlight, and in this case would get 2 sunlight units. So that's the first step, is you're getting your sunlight. The second is you're spending it, and there's a number of different things you can spend it on. Number 1 is you can plant new trees. So whenever you plant a new tree, you're going to plant a sapling, and it basically has to be within range of your original tree that's essentially planting that sapling. That's going to work with 1, 2, and 3. So if you plant it and it's coming out of this tree, it has to be 1 space on the board away from that tree. It's coming out of this one, it has to be up to 2 spaces, and from this one it can be up to 3 spaces from that tree. When you plant a seedling, you're going to spend energy. It's going to cost you 1 sunlight unit to do so. So that's marked right here on the board. It's going to cost you 1 sunlight unit, and this shows how far away that seedling can be from the original tree when you plant it. Second thing you can do is you can buy stuff. So everything you're going to do is going to require these items that you've got on your board being pulled off of your board and being bought. So when I plant a seedling, I don't just pull it off the board and play it. I have to spend 1 sunlight unit, so move this here, to take that, and now I can spend another sunlight unit to plant it. So if I'm going to want to use one of these trees, I've got to spend these sunlight units to do it. So if I want to buy this tree, it would cost 2. You're always working from the bottom up whenever you're buying stuff. So the next time I buy a tree, it's going to cost me 2. But the next time I buy a tree, it's going to cost me 3 because these 2 are already gone. At some point, these trees are going to come back onto the board. And when they come back onto the board, they're going to go from the top down. So we're going to fill in the most expensive slots first. Third thing you can do is you can grow a tree. So if this tree is right here, and I want to go from a small-sized tree to a medium-sized tree, it's represented by this spot on the board right here, I would spend 2 sunlight units, and then I would go from small to medium. I'd take this guy off the board. He goes back onto the board in the open spot. And then I'd take a medium-sized tree that I bought earlier, and I'm going to put it in its place. So again, notice I can't pull that medium-sized tree from here. It has to be one that I've bought earlier on. If all of these small tree spots are taken, and I go to put one of these guys back on the board, this is removed from the game because there's nowhere I can possibly put it. That could potentially come to hurt you later if later on you need more small trees and you've run out of them. So you can grow a tree by spending 1 sunlight to move it from being a sapling to a tree. You can spend 2 to move it from being a small to a medium, or again, you can spend 3 to move it from medium to big. There's one other thing though you can do is you can spend 4, and if it's a big tree, you can harvest it. So whenever you take a big tree, you spend 4 sunlight units. You spend 4 sunlight units, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now this gets taken off the board entirely. Again, goes back into your store unless those spots are taken, in which case it's removed from the game. And then you're going to get points based on how many leaves were on that spot. So you'll notice this outer ring here, these are the least valuable spots. There's only 1 leaf on them. So you've got these piles, which you're going to make at the beginning of the game, and each of these piles represents a different number of leaves that are on the cards. This is the 1-leaf pile, 2-leaf pile, etc. And these numbers are how many points they're worth. These are going to be in ascending order. So we're going to have the lower numbers for that pile at the bottom and the higher numbers at the top. What that means is whoever's the first player to get a 1-leaf card, it's going to be worth 14 points. The second player is also going to get 14 points for it. But the third player is only going to get 13 points. So the earlier in the game you harvest them, the more points you're going to get. 2-leaf cards are worth even more points. 3-leaf cards are even more points. And that 4-leaf spot right in the middle, that's worth the most possible points. If you go to harvest something and all the discs of that number of leaves are gone, then you would take the highest card from the next smallest number of leaves. So if the 3-leaf pile was gone when you harvested a 3-leaf tree, you would take the top card from the 2-leaf pile. Each round, somebody is going to be the start player, which is indicated by who has this tree in front of them. So everyone's going to take their sunlight points at first, but then whoever's the start player, they get to spend however many of their sunlight units they want on however many different things they want, and the next player is going to go, the next player, the next player. So whoever's the start player thing, they're going to do all of their sunlight, and the next player, and the next player. They're not going to do it one action at a time. You can stop whenever you want. You do not have to use all of your sunlight units. Whatever you want to leave left over for the next round, you can, and you'll get them then. But if you ever would go above 20, you're going to stop at 20. So that's the maximum amount of sunlight you can possibly get. The other key thing about using your sunlight units is you can never, it says in the rulebook, you can never activate the same spot on the board more than once. So if I've got this guy here and I grow it into a medium-sized tree, I cannot later on that same turn grow that medium-sized tree into a big-sized tree. Those are 2 separate turns. One place where this comes up that can be a little bit extra tricky is if I've got this thing on the board here and I want to plant a seedling that's 2 spots away, then I've essentially activated this spot where the seedling is coming from, and I've activated this spot where the seedling lands. So I can't either grow this tree or grow this seedling because both of those spots have already been used. That also means if I have a tree that's at 4, I can't mature it, get the points for it, and then plant a seedling on that same spot in the same turn. At the end of the turn, the sun is going to rotate, so it's going to go to the next spot on the board. The start player thing is going to go to the next player in order, and we're going to start over. At some point, the sun is going to make a full rotation around the board, and when it comes back to that starting point, that is the end of the first round. We're going to get rid of this round 1 marker that we keep on the side of the board. It's going to start round 2. Whenever the turn comes where we get rid of this round 3 marker, that is our last turn of the game, and we're going to count up the points. At the end of the game, the winner is going to be the player with the most points. You get points for these discs right here. That's the main way you're going to get points. But you also get points for any unused sunlight. So whichever row your sunlight tracker is on, that'll tell you how many points you get. So if it's on this row, you get 2 points. This row, 3 points. Essentially, that means however much sunlight you have left divided by 3, rounded down, that's how many points you're going to get. So if you have 7, you would get 2 points. If there is a tie after using both of these 2 things, then whoever has the most trees plus seeds on the board of their color, they're the winner. And if there's still a tie, then the game ends in a tie. That's how you play photosynthesis.